Special. Knowledge for All. Sunday morning at 9 on Pearl. Knowledge for All is presented by the Open University of Hong Kong. From economic and business trends to political, social and cultural issues, relevant to viewers in Hong Kong and around the world. A half-hour documentary show, interviewing prominent figures and leaders with viewpoints from all sides. Sunday night, Pearl Magazine at 8 on Pearl. Embrace every day with a smile and positive energy to overcome everything.
I just know that when I'm feeling empty, I ask for more strength, and somehow He gives me the energy to face whatever is happening.
Sunday, Showers of Blessing at 3:30 on Pearl.
Chugani, and this is Straight Talk. With me today is Michelson, you're a former chairman of American Chamber of Commerce, Chris Exline, you're former chairman of Republicans Abroad. We're going to talk about Joe Biden today, okay, the new U.S. president. Now, Biden is now president. Chris, let me ask you first. Many people say good that Trump is gone. A lot of American allies also said good that Trump is gone, and we've got Joe Biden here now. Was Trump really that bad?
I think the word that I would use for Trump's legacy is going to be tragic. Alongside many laudable accomplishments, whether it was Operation Warp Speed, whether it was engagement with China, whether it was
Operation Warp Speed was good. It produced a vaccine so quickly.
Yeah, but I think it's going to languish alongside these despicable actions that we've witnessed over the past 2 months.
So he was a bad president?
I think he will be, yes. Yes.
What do you think?
I think so too. And the problem is that people were so confused about what was going to happen next and uneasy. And what we have now is what some people have called a return of restraint. Maybe too much restraint in some ways. But, people will feel more calm, and that even if they don't agree with the policy, it's not going to come out of nowhere and then something.
But over 73 million people supported Donald Trump.
Yes.
They would now. I mean, I think it's quite refreshing to wake up every morning and not react to a news cycle that's dominated by Donald Trump. And I bet if the election were held today, that 73 million would be significantly less.
Can Joe Biden repair America's image? People say America's image has gone downhill.
Oh, I think he's already doing it.
In what way?
Well, one, I think he's already established more rapport with long-standing allies. I think he's giving clarity to the direction that he wants the U.S. to be involved in. It's one about engagement, not entitlement. It's one about inclusiveness and not isolationism. It's one where he understands that in order to make the world work, you have to work through the institutions that the world has established.
But, Mark, you heard what Chris said. Work with allies. One of America's allies, the European Union, signed a trade agreement with China just days before he got sworn in.
Yeah, well, there was an opportunity.
It's like a stab in the back or something, right?
Well, there's an opportunity, and China and Europe took advantage of it. But yeah, it's another challenge. But I think they have to look at this. I think what he's doing now, and I'm borrowing this from someone who's had a long experience in U.S.-China relations, he's hitting the pause button. He's not hitting play. He's not hitting rewind. He's sort of taking a look, he and his administration, at what the situation is and how we can move forward without maybe changing everything all at once. influence, and he won't. It won't change a lot. But some things he may do a little bit differently, but it will be more deliberate. And you'll see some of it coming rather than be surprised by it so much.
So right now, after being president for a week or so, he hasn't really done anything that people say, wow, what a refreshing change. He's been quite low-key, right?
Well, I think he's got a lot to do. I mean, you have, as of Tuesday, 420,000 Americans who've died because of the virus. They're averaging about 833,000 people a day to get the vaccine. So in a population of 330 million, you're looking at about a year to get everybody vaccinated. You've got to try and get these stimulus measures through Congress, and you've got this impeachment trial.
Well, yeah, I'm going to ask you about the impeachment trial. Before I do that, Mark, now, what Biden said, or his people said, Secretary of State and so on, are saying that China is a strategic country, right? Not an enemy, but he says,
strategic competitor.
Exactly right. And then he's going to unite allies like European Union, like UK and Canada and so on, to confront China. Is that a good thing or a bad thing, and is it doable, Mark?
Well, it's a good question whether it's doable, but Asia is a good place to focus on that because Kurt Campbell, who now is sort of the Asian czar, well experienced in this area, is in charge of Indo-Pacific.
Correct.
And so that's what that is. It really is sort of most of Asia-Pacific except China. And it's not exactly against China, looking for cooperation where there can be cooperation in areas like COVID, for example, climate change, infrastructure, maybe the economy, other areas, but other situations, there's going to be some differences, and those differences are shared between the United States and various other countries. You mentioned Europe, but also in Asia.
Will it be better than Trump? I mean, Trump made no. He didn't hide his disdain for China in his later years, and he used words that perhaps other people said he shouldn't have used to describe the virus and so on.
Right.
Will the atmosphere be at least a bit better between Trump and China? Between Biden and China.
I look at this through a slightly different lens. I mean, I look at it as a gift box. I mean, you have to think that the central government or the people in the foreign ministry of China would have done anything not to have some of these labels of genocide or the Hong Kong or Taiwan visits, those things, have those not enacted. But the
Will
fact
those
that they
continue?
well, now you're dealing with the consequences. So it's not like they can pressure Biden to say, oh, don't do that. No, voila, it's done. So now to get those rescinded or amended or modified will require some, consideration and some concessions on the Chinese part.
That they don't think it was a bad thing. Now they may change their mind and may be modified over time, but their constituencies basically support that approach.
Is it a dangerous thing, though, Mark, to move closer to Taiwan, for example?
It could be. It could be, but there's a great deal of sympathy. They may not take as dramatic moves as the Trump administration did. They may do it more slowly, but already there's a pathway, and Taiwan will take advantage of that as well.
Now, Chris, impeachment.
Yes.
Some people feel that Trump is gone, let it be, right? Instead of pursuing an impeachment, now that he's not even president anymore, right? So the way I see it, the sole reason the Democrats want to do the impeachment is so that he cannot run again 4 years from now, right? Other than that, it serves no other purpose. It divides the country. Mm-hmm. Why not just let it go so that Biden can focus on uniting the country?
Thank you. I actually was in that camp before. I thought, the articles of impeachment were designed or enacted to remove a sitting president. And so the constitutionality question will be argued. But then, as I've been looking out over these past months, where he's fractured the electorate with fraudulent claims of fraud, where he sat there and incited a mob with sayings of...
But he didn't really ask the people to go and storm the Congress, right?
You know what? Make some noise. I tried to be, a benefit of the doubt, but the more I've looked at that, the more, unlike the Capitol, the facts are unassailable. He actually encouraged it, and in disgustingly equal measure. He sat idle, silent for 4 hours while people were roaming around the Capitol asking, "Where's Nancy? Hang Pence." He didn't come out and disavow that. He didn't try to stop it. And so, in my mind, he should be, as a Republican, he should be removed.
You're a Republican.
I am, and now I'm glad to be one again. He should be removed from the party, and he should not be allowed to hold any federal office in the United States of America ever again.
Mark, you lean towards being a Democrat, although you're not a member of the Democratic Party.
I'm a proud independent.
An independent. Now, should Trump be impeached or let the country move forward?
The problem is that there aren't many other paths. There aren't many other remedies. And so, just as Chris described the situation, it's an extraordinary situation. And I don't know if it's going to succeed or not. It may not. But it certainly raises issues that need to be raised. And you would hope it would discourage something like this from happening again. It may not. But if you don't do anything, and there are, as I said, there aren't many options, how can you do that?
But by doing it, Biden wants to have cooperation with the Republican Party. By pursuing Trump, now that he's no longer in office, that's not going to work. You're not going to have harmony. You'll have even more divisiveness.
Mark? Go ahead. Well, no, I think that's unclear at the moment. I think we'll see in the next few weeks, especially when the trial begins, which is in February. We'll see who on the Republicans party.
I think it's quite clear, actually, and it's becoming more clear with every day. One, his actions. I'm all for redemption, you know me, but he actually foreclosed his chance for forgiveness by what he's done. And now you're seeing that the other camp that said you've got to get rid of Trump. Well, Liz Cheney, they've already put a primary candidate against her for 2022. So the thought that Trump would quietly go away, would not try to influence things from Mar-a-Lago, was just patently false. He's trying, and you've got then with in toddler intensity, you'll have Cruz and Hawley and Pompeo clamoring for attention. So unless Trump is dealt with effectively and just kind of expunged, as difficult as that will be from the Republican Party can't move forward.
They may see it as an advantage. Some Republicans also, because
in what way?
If he's on the side, it will maybe open the way for some of them to get greater influence again, to come back to the Republican Party.
You mean if he's not impeached, then he'll come back again, and other Republicans?
Yeah, and it may not just be not impeached, but on the sidelines, which he's certainly not at the moment, and doesn't have apparently any intention to be.
So you think some Republicans want to see him go so that they can come out and run?
Many.
In 4 years.
Many.
All right, okay. Quick break, Susan. Don't go away.
They may be just kids, but they tonight. MasterChef Junior, Season 6, at 8:30 on Pearl. Tuck into some clawsome dishes that are giving crabs a whole new makeover. Brush up on your taste in art by these pieces and hear the story behind each one. Heat up the kitchen with these creative dishes using simple ingredients. Thursday night, Dolce Vita at 9 on Pearl.
The Community Care Fund has in phases. One-person households can submit applications from now until the 31st of May. Old applicant households should reply to confirm eligibility after receiving letters. For details, please visit the website or call 2180-6666.
I really like horror movies.
Exploding buildings, car chasing.
He likes comedy without a doubt.
I love animation.
We know everyone's got a type of
the bad guys with an identical flip.
It's like, I shouldn't watch it, but I can't help myself.
That's where I get my jokes to make her laugh.
I was sure more romantic.
So, we did the unimaginable. Studio 930 hand-selected top-notch movies to air from Monday to Sunday.
This is what it means.
Less time choosing means more time watching.
Studio 930.
No matter what your taste or preference is, we've got it all.
I'm staying right here on the sofa.
Just sit back and relax.
That means you get more date nights.
One studio brings you all sorts of entertainment.
Recap history and relive the memories. Every night before the news at 7:30. Today in history. Right here on Pearl.
Thanks for staying with us. This is Straight Talk. With me today is Michelson and Chris Exline. Now, Chris, okay, let me ask you this. Is Trump going to go away?
No, he'll always have a core base of supporters, even if it's diminished
He
significantly.
doesn't have Twitter and stuff like that, but he says he's not going to go away, right? He'll be around.
He'll be around. He
Is that
won
good?
for his own. I don't think it's good for the Republican Party. I don't think it's good for the nation. But he is a private. And he has a right to a voice. And I'm very disturbed that these champions of freedom of expression, Facebook or Twitter, deputize themselves with police powers to, basically suspend people that don't align with their views.
A lot of people agree with that, Mark. I mean, whatever, you do, I mean, Twitter and so on, they decide what freedom of speech you have. Is that right or wrong?
Well, it's troubling, and I agree with Chris about that, because that can be applied in any way, and maybe that's not the best way to deal with issues like this.
Well, the Ayatollah.
That is, a lot of people find that disturbing. Now, Chris, the trade agreement between the U.S. and China under Trump, that's not been fulfilled, right?
No, well, they signed on January 15th, 2020, phase one of the deal, and that was widely anticipated to usher in a new era. But as of today, where China was obligated, or China agreed to buy and purchase $200 billion worth of goods from the United States, as of today, they've just done slightly over $100 billion. They've only purchased 64% of the pledged agricultural allotment, only 60% of the factory orders, and only 39% of energy-related orders. So it's not being enforced. I think that's the best
Which
place
is
to
true
start.
in part, but of course we're in COVID, and a lot of these factories are actually not producing very well, and it's very hard to achieve those. You can argue they wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have done it anyway. But U.S. exports have actually went up in 2020, including to China. But of course, Chinese exports to the U.S. and the rest of the world were enormous, in part because they were producing.
Right.
And of course, they took advantage of that.
Should the Biden administration pursue a trade war with China, Mark?
I think what I think they're trying to do, and let's see if the U.S. has never done this successfully, is focus on strengthening U.S. competition, and that is putting money in education, technology, many other areas, sort of an industrial policy, which again the U.S. doesn't have a great history of doing or being successful at, but trying to compete with China rather than focusing on just penalizing China and not competing, and actually end up penalizing the U.S. more than China.
Now, Mark said compete with China. A lot of people dislike Trump, but a lot of people say, if it wasn't for Trump, the world may not have recognized or seen that China could be a strategic threat to other people, right? So in that way, Trump was right.
Oh, like I've said many times, and I'll say again, Trump did many laudable things. He has many accomplishments, and what he did successfully was bring China to the front and center of everyone's attention. Now, was he successful in everything that he tried to do, and are these issues complex? They're enormously complex. And while I agree with Mark, I think that making the U.S. more competitive in certain manufacturing industries is a generational approach and backwards. Where the U.S. has tremendous leverage over China is, like, if you look at Taiwan Semiconductor. Taiwan Semiconductor you cannot produce all the things that it does without U.S. Patents and supplies and materials. And so in this decoupling, which which Trump has done, is basically forced decoupling. So China
doesn't want decoupling. It does not want it. I know.
Neither do many U.S. companies.
Right.
I mean, decoupling is severe and it has enormous consequences.
Well, it's a mixed bag. Supply chains have changed already, even before the trade conflict heated up, even before COVID and the rest of it. Many companies, U.S. and others, were trying to diversify their sourcing quarters in different places.
The Chinese government, Beijing, has been sending out signals that it wants a reset in U.S.-China relations. You think Biden will want a reset?
Well, I think the short answer is yes, but under certain terms, and those are terms that they consider favorable to the U.S. as well as to China, and that is making them part of the regional strategy, but at the same time in a way that doesn't undermine U.S. interests, and that's economic and security and political interests as well. That's going to be hard to do.
Should there be a reset, Chris?
No.
Why not?
What's amazing is 2 years ago when you had me on this show, everything we talked about the industrialized nations creating a superpower has come to pass. And I think that what Biden needs to do is make sure that we are fully aligned with our trading partners and strategic allies like the European Union, the UK, Japan, Korea, Australia, Singapore, and make sure that we carve out our own role in this new world. Every single attempt for the past 40 years of bringing China into the realm of democratic nations, Western-style industrialized nations, has not worked, and it's not going to.
But then isn't it a dangerous thing to isolate China? Because it is the second most powerful economy in the world. It could be the world's most powerful not too long from now. It is also a military superpower. You have to accept its rise.
Oh, of course. I mean, I would look at this as trade agreements with Chinese characteristics.
And I don't think it's an effort to isolate them, at least with the Biden administration at this point. It's exactly what Chris said, to form stronger alliances with the friends of the United States in Asia and elsewhere. At the same time, cooperate with China where you can on specific issues.
Up on it and make it, and it'll just fight back. That's not good for the world.
No, there's a risk, but I think there's a way of, and it may not be successful, but there's a way of trying to find some kind of compromise in the situation on specific issues. It's still going to be very sticky, and it's going to be rough going, but it may not be quite as rough sledding as it was the last 4 years.
Chris, so you don't think the U.S. should recognize that China is a rising power and deserves this place in the world?
It's risen. It's there.
Well, exactly.
And
so why can't the U.S. just recognize that?
Well, I think we have. I think everybody's recognized it. I don't know what kind of recognition China is craving, but when you look at what, like to your point on Trump, I mean, Trump basically did a fantastic job in revealing to the world that this past policy of 40 years of bringing China into an inclusive camaraderie of nations wasn't going to work, and it's not going to work. And the current administration in Beijing has no intention of subscribing to Western values.
Is China now on the rise and America is now a declining power? A lot of people saying that.
Well, certainly the balance has shifted. America is not as strong, and for the past few years, America has not interacted as much internationally as it had before. It hasn't engaged as much. That's going to change, but you lose some time. So China has gained considerably, but I think the focus will be on making, if it may not be successful, making China more responsible power. Certainly they've recognized, and the officials coming into the Biden administration and now the Biden administration have recognized that China is a major power, it's a major regional and international power, but they want to try to make it more responsible.
Okay, now, Chris, I just got a couple of minutes more left. Let's focus on Hong Kong.
Okay.
The U.S. government has, Trump has sanctioned a lot of government officials, including the chief executive, and has given Hong Kong a lot of support. Should that continue?
Thanks.
Under Biden?
I think that you're going to see an extension of current policies. I don't think you're going to see much revision of what's already been happening. And I think that, yes, you've asked me a question. This is straight talk. If the United States policy is that to help Hong Kong, then they should. But, under the recognition, as someone who's lived here for almost 25 years, this is a city inside a sovereign nation. This is not Taiwan. This isn't other parts. And so, we have to respect the Chinese constitution, that China, that Hong Kong is a part of China. So things where other parts of, like Ted Cruz or some of those people were trying to cite Hong Kong, I don't think is helpful at all.
But should sanctions remain? I mean, the chief executive has been sanctioned, the police commissioner has been sanctioned. Should that be lifted?
If it was up to me, yes, I don't see what purpose it serves not letting Carrie Lam use her credit card.
What do you think, Mark?
No, I don't disagree with that. I think the U.S. needs to recognize that Hong Kong still has a role to play, and it's important to the U.S. in many ways, economically and politically, even though it is a part of China. And you have to recognize that as well. But this stick more than the carrot is not going to be very helpful, I don't think.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reason those things were taken was because of the national security law, which the U.S. feels is taking away Hong Kong's freedoms.
Yeah, and I know, but is it the best way?
The national security law has brought in and engendered a succession of struggles for many people in the city. I don't think that when the U.S. was doing sanctions against Carrie Lam or Commissioner Tang, I don't think they ever envisioned that would reverse a policy or make any type of meaningful change. So I think that the U.S. needs to probably understand that the national security law is here to stay. It's not going to go away. And before Biden can actually focus on this, it will have been in place for over a year.
Okay, I've got 20 seconds. Will Biden focus more on Hong Kong like Trump did, or he's going to put it away?
I think he'll be concerned with Hong Kong, but China will be the big focus, and Hong Kong is part of the China situation.
All right.
Put it away.
Thanks for watching. See you next time. Good evening.